Oh, do I feel good today? What's up, DTL Golf Universe? And thank you for allowing us to move this back just a day as travel and schedules and the playoffs all kind of came together. We are live every single week, normally on Tuesdays, this week on Wednesday. And I got to tell you, it's been a long regular season. You guys have been with us since day one here on DTL Golf. We've now arrived at the first playoff event. The top 70 have arrived in Memphis, Tennessee. It's going to be hot. It's going to be muggy. And I think there's going to be some low scores. So we got a lot of best bets to talk about. So this week, it's just me and my main man, Steve Scott, who wears a lot of hats here at DTL Golf. Analyst, host, just all around good dude. But I got to tell you, Steve Scott, when I say the DTL Golf Universe is everywhere, right now, as we speak, RD is on PGA Tour Live on the range. So we literally are in two places at once. Good afternoon.
Yes, we are. And RD is going to have to use a lot of gold bond this week because it's going to be like the mid to upper 90s in Memphis, Tennessee. I don't see a lot of wind kind of, cooling him off. So he's going to be chafing this week. I've got a feeling. Get that visual in your mind, right?
Why did you have to do that to me, Steve? Now that's all I'm thinking about.
No.
Real quick before we move on, because we always like to recap a little bit about what happened the previous week. And I've become good friends with Max Gresserman the last year or so. It was heartbreaking what happened to him last week. You previewed the tournament beautifully. Weather was a big-time factor. They had to play 36 holes on Sunday. So coming out of that, not just Max, but how do you think a lot of the guys that had to play through all that will arrive in Memphis this week?
I think they might be a little tired, but also, those who nobody really jumped from the outside the top 70 inside the top 70. So there wasn't really any volatility last week, unfortunately. But those people who are inside the top 70, they're very happy to be there. But now the mission is to get inside the top 50 because the top 50 not only gets you to the BMW Championship next week at Castle Pines, just outside of Denver, but it gets you into the signature events next year, which we know have proved really important in this guy's all the pocketbooks and the FedEx Cup points and everything for all these players. So big week this week. They're happy to be there to get the playoffs, but the top 50 is the big mission, and then to piece it down to the top 30 after that.
Yeah, it's so important, Steve. I couldn't have said it any better myself. And you talk about a guy like Max, who last year was on the Korn Ferry Tour. He's played his way into the top 70, but I was talking with him, and he did not control his schedule this year, and that's one of the things he's most looking forward to. And that's what all these guys do, really. How important for these guys, because it's kind of like two different tournaments this week. You want to win because you want to be as high as possible if you get to the Tour Championship, but getting in that top 50, what do you think is more important for the guys?
Well, Max Greiserman, who have come into this tournament as hot as anybody, should have won last week. We all feel for him, man. The hole out on 13, he went 2 with an eagle, and then he went 8 on holes 13, 14 in the final round. It was just a heartbreaking finish to watch that, and then to finish in the dark like they did. It was so bizarre. But those players, like Max Greiserman, I think he's still going to be really buoyed by all the great play that he's had, 2 second-place finishes in a row, and now he's got a great chance to, one more good week. The points are multiplied this week, but I can't stop thinking though about the Matt Kuchar, the finish there, and I love Matt. Matt's a great guy. I played the Walker Cup with him in '99. Like we go way back, but that was a really weird thing to happen and finish, and how it finished in the dark, and he hits into Aaron Rye's group, and I just can't stop thinking about that.
Yeah, I actually, because it was so weird, and I was watching live at the time, and his explanation on Monday morning made a little bit more sense to me, because he said he thought that Max was tied with Aaron Rye. He didn't know Aaron Rye had birdied the 18th hole, so he surely Max would not finish the hole also, and he wanted him to have somebody to come back and play with on Monday morning. That's what he said, so that made more sense. If he would have birdied that hole, by the way, he would have made an extra $100,000. So that didn't happen either, but it was the first time we've ever seen it. One player One player
Yeah.
finished on Monday. That was it. One
It was
player.
nuts.
All right. Shout out to Japan. And Steve, you're a big part of this. He says DTL Golf is the reason all my bills have been paid in 2024, including last week, because we picked Aaron Rye, or RD picked Aaron Rye. We catched that. Failed to mention that off the top of the show. Also, Jeff says, can we get Steve to do the coach impression he did while our wonderful host was away? What was that, Steve-O?
Well, I don't have a hat, so ooh, do I feel good today? Yeah. Well, maybe not the but
that's all respect. All respect. My guy. Look how far we've come, by the way. We met 4 or 5 years ago, and we go from one event, and now we have a show together. We're into the playoffs. So many good things are happening for us. All right, let's get into it. If you're new to DTL Golf, we have 5 different categories we like to get into, and we like to cash in all of them. But there's a lot of you that have no patience, and that's why we do a first-round leader. So, Steve Scott, I want you to start right there. Who do you like to be in the lead after 18 holes?
If throughout this year, this guy has been at the top of my radar, like for all the first-round leaders. Now, I just don't feel great that he's going to win, because he hasn't won on tour, and I just don't feel like he's going to win. But Alex Noren gets out of the gate about as well as anybody not named Scotty Scheffler on the PGA Tour. He is 4th in first-round scoring this year, and he has another early tee time. It seems like every time I pick him and want to pick him, I look at the tee sheet for the next day. The morning tee times are always going to be the most advantageous for scoring. They're playing in twosomes, mind you. And they're starting at 8:20, 8:30, and go all the way to almost 2 o'clock. And so you have those players who start early. They definitely have the fresh conditions, the cooler conditions, and which will be important this week. But he's right there, 5th twosome off in the morning at 9 a.m. So he's right in that ripe time to shoot a great score. And by the way, he loves the first round. And one other thing that's really important here at TPC Southwind, that's really important when you pick all of your players this week at TPC Southwind, there are only 2 par 5s, okay? So there's 4 par 3s, and then there's 12 par 4s, if my math is right there. So you have so many opportunities on the par 4s. Par 4 scoring this week is going to be crucial. Alex Noren, he is tied for 6th in par 4 scoring. And that's going to be kind of a common theme through many of my picks today. The par 4 scoring is going to be very, very important this week.
Hashtag next level capping by my man Steve. Did any of you at home think about that? That's why you dig deep with DTL Golf. Great stuff. By the way, shout out to Joanne. I think it might be the first time she's here for golf. Hello to you. By the way, real quick before I get away from this, I know you're world famous for your play in the U.S. Am. Do you have anybody you like this week in the U.S. Amateur, Steve? Don't even know if you looked at it.
I did. I've been watching. This is it's been 28 years since that crazy U.S. Amateur match I had against Tiger Woods at that place, Pumpkin Ridge. I got the logo there in my deal. But it's Luke Clanton. He just achieved the #1 world amateur golf ranking status just today, I believe it was, because he made it. And I just was watching on Golf Channel the first round match. He dusted this guy like 5-4. Just hit great shots. But, I mean, really the first amateur since Jack Nicklaus in the 60s, or even the 50s, I guess, when Nicklaus was an amateur, to have 3 top 10s in one season on the PGA Tour. Luke Clanton, he's the guy to be the guy this week. He is firing on all cylinders. Darn near won the golf tournament last week, by the way, and probably wouldn't have come here to play the U.S. Amateur. But Luke Clanton, Florida State, even though I don't love to pick Florida State Seminoles, it's so hard to do it because I'm a Florida Gator. Luke Clanton's your guy this week.
You got to be like itching whenever you say that. Golly. It's so bizarre where we're at in the world of amateur golf, having Nick Dunlap win in January and now Clanton. And Jim Nance said it on the broadcast, and I don't believe him for a second, and I want your take on this, that Luke Clanton says, I'm committed to Florida State for 4 years. But if he would have won the winning championship, obviously he wouldn't have gotten the $1.5 million or whatever. But all the stuff that Nick Dunlap is now doing, Clanton would then be subject to. Do you think if he wins on the PGA Tour, he stays at Florida State for 4 years?
No chance. I mean, I saw the competitive nature in his eyes. I mean, he's doing things that no amateur out there is doing right now. He's got the total package. He is not scared one single bit of any of these players. So there's no chance that he does that at all. And one other U.S. amateur thing that I was just noting, and I was getting a nervous tick when I was watching this. There's a player out there. His name is Tiger Christensen. He plays for Oklahoma State. He's a German guy. And it was really interesting, but I was getting a little tick there hearing this thing on the screen. Tiger's got par putt. Like, it's crazy.
I'm sure there's times that you've woken up to that. Oh my goodness.
Whew.
By the way, your Alex Noren is plus 7,000 at FanDuel. So shop around a little bit. You might get a really good number for Scott. Thank you for all that analysis on the U.S. Amateur. That's why you're so great. Real quick, my first round leader, there's a reason that I picked Justin Thomas, Steve, and that's because he did not make it to the Olympics. He has not won, but he's been playing a lot better this year. And if there is a bigger competitor in the world of golf, then I don't know who it is. He's going to show up this week ready to go because he's fresh and he's hungry. So I like Justin Thomas to have a really good first round. Maybe -6, -7. I think it's going to be good enough at plus 3,500. Love that number. Now, I saw somebody in the chat said head-to-head matchups are the most popular picks or something like that at sports books. Well, here at DTL Golf, Steve, you know we preach this is where you put all of your full units. Meaning if you're $100 better, this is what you do. Let's go to the head-to-head matchups that you like this particular week. Who do you like?
Well, that was our good friend Rafael Esparza there with that shout out there. That was really
our numbers guy is in the chat. I didn't even see Rafael there.
He's so
Hello,
sharp.
sir.
He's so sharp. But my head-to-heads this week, let's start with Sung Jae Im, -115 over Tom Kim. Another guy, top 10 in par 4 scoring, Sung Jae Im. In the last 10 events, Sung Jae has 7 top 10s. And it's maybe not even so much what Sung Jae Im has as far as attributes. It's where Tom Kim is right now with his mindset. Going into the Olympics, you may have seen on social media, I mean, he was devastated to not gain a medal in the Olympics. That would have helped him bypass mandatory military service in the Republic of Korea. And so he might have a couple other opportunities to earn a medal in the Pan Asian Games or whatnot, but this was a big opportunity for Tom Kim. He put so much into that appearance there that I don't know. I think it's going to be hard for him to regroup. He's such a talented player, but I think I think it'll be very difficult to beat Sung Jae Im this week. So Sung Jae over Tom, Im over Kim. Let's go Aaron Rai over Victor Hovland. This week. I think Aaron Rai is going to continue his great play from last week, kind of like we saw Lucas Glover a year ago. Won the Wyndham, went to FedEx St. Jude. Similar type golf course. You don't have to be the longest player to play well at the TPC Southwind. And Victor Hovland is not he's not really dialed in with his golf swing right now. In his last 6 events, here's some important stats for you to when you compare these guys. Victor Hovland, his last 6 events, miscut, tied for 20th, tied for 46th, miscut, tied for 30th. Okay, not awful in a couple of those, but not Victor Hovland-like numbers. Then we look at Aaron Rai's last 6 events. Tied for 19th, tied for 2nd, tied for 7th, tied for 4th, tied for 75th, and a win. Okay, so definitely trending better Aaron Rai. I watched him last week. I was on the ground there at the Wyndham, and I love the way he prepares for every shot. He might be a little pokey. Okay, he's a little slow. He's a little pokey, right? It's slow. He's, slow play makes, no friends, but fast play makes fast friends. But it's important is that he was dialed in on every shot. His game is really sharp right now. I really like where he is as opposed to Victor Hovland. Aaron is 9 of his last 10 events. He's been positive in both strokes gain approach and off the tee. The off the tee game, very important this week too, as well as those par 4s. Oh, by the way, he's top 10 in par 4 scoring as well. So let's keep it there as well. Finally, Tony Finau, -125 over Sahith Theegala. Finau, we know Tony Finau is not the sharpest putter in the world, but big but this week. The last 5 events for Tony Finau, positive strokes gained putting. So you combine that with a guy who strikes the ball as well as he does, and these are the third smallest greens on the PGA Tour this week. You need that high golf ball that comes down soft like a butterfly with sore feet, and that Tony Finau can make that happen. So I really like Finau this week, especially at the minus 125. He's the favorite right here. You got to go with the favorite. I'm picking all favorites this week.
I actually like all three because I think Sungjae could beat Tom Kim, and my Tom Kim could still go over Cam Davis because Cam Davis is just playing bad golf. By the way, historically, any of the Asian golfers have had to stop their careers for that military service. Rarely do they come back and continue in a positive fashion. It stinks. It just stinks. Nothing against the military service, but it stinks for their golf game. So quickly, I'm going to go Gresserman over Mackenzie Hughes. Mackenzie Hughes, I think, is trying too hard, Steve, to get on the President's Cup team, and that is having a reverse effect. And Gresserman, even though he had that 8 and he kind of gave that away with a 4-shot lead, he still has 2 top 2s in a row. So I still like him minus 130. I don't think it affected him that much. Tom Kim, you've already said it. He played really well at the Olympics. He played well at the Travelers. I think he's trending. Cam Davis is not a little juicy. Sometimes the juice is worth the squeeze. Then Davis Thompson, my God, Steve, is there nothing this guy can't do? He continues to play better and better. I think Billy Horschel has expended all of his energy. I love this one. Then I had one plus play, and I want your reaction to this one, Steve, because Wyndham Clark, after his first meltdown round at the Olympics, he was on fire for 3 straight rounds. And Ludwig Oberg was not. He went in the opposite direction. This is kind of a gut play for me. It's a plus money play. What do you make of this last play for me?
Yeah, I think you're rolling the dice just a little bit, Coach, to be honest with you. But Wyndham is, look, this is kind of what we do. We kind of roll the dice. We feel things out. Wyndham, trending a little, pretty well. Ludwig, he's a pretty solid performer, though. I think with these small greens, he's going to be really, really solid. But you look at Wyndham Clark, and he won on the Tours event with the smallest greens, Pebble Beach, this year. So it's going to be a close match. I think you got to just go with that Clark bet and ride it till you can't anymore.
Now, to be clear, we don't expect you to play all 7 of these, but this is where you should put most of your money for the week. Quick question from Raphael Steve for you in the chat. Does the excessive heat warning for Thursday and Friday do anything for the golfers early?
Yeah, definitely an advantage for sure. I mean, it's going to be hot all day, but they're not going to be playing their whole round in the major heat. So again, that's kind of why I like the Alex Noren first round leader sort of pick. Go early. It's going to be cooler, more comfortable for these guys. They're not going to, got to drink a lot of coconut water, got to drink a lot of electrolytes, got to drink keep all that in you.
All right, let's move on from our head-to-head to what we call the finishing positions. Category number 3. Now, definitely dial this back because we saw with Max Gresserman on Sunday exactly what we're talking about. Things can change in a second. The number for Aaron Rai when he was behind by 5 was like plus whatever 2,000 or 3,000. He ends up winning. Everything can change in a finishing position bet. So, where are you headed in this category, Steve?
Yeah, that last week was a good live betting week for sure. You could have done really well. But this week, I think the weather is going to be pretty consistent. So I think you can kind of select your picks a little ahead of time. But yeah, Alex Noren plus 190 there, top 20 guy, such a steady performer for all the reasons I listed before. So go with him. Nick Dunlap, here's a guy I think is getting a little shafted by the books this week because at plus 400 for a top 20, and I'm going to cover him in a long shot category as well. I really think last week I got to follow Nick for at least 18 holes, maybe 27 holes from this first round into the second round. And Nick, to me, looked like a lot more comfortable player. Back about 4 months ago, I saw him at the RBC Heritage, soon off of his win. He looked a little lost and whatnot. Now he's won as a professional at the Barracuda, and he's got a lot to play for this week too. I think he could finish better than top 20 because of the fact that he's just inside that top 70. It's kind of an aggressive type play this week. I think he's, it's kind of a birdie or bust sort of week for him. So, and one other thing that's really important, Nick Dunlap lives in Birmingham, Alabama. I don't know if there's any hotter place in the summer than Birmingham, Alabama. So it's very similar weather going to be in Memphis this week. And Bermuda greens are the norm in Birmingham, and they have Bermuda greens also at the TPC Southwind. So I think Bermuda grass green putters are going to be very important. Nick Dunlap fits that bill.
If there's one thing you've taught me over the years is that greens, the kind of grass, absolutely matters, because sometimes players are great on the West Coast. They come to the East Coast, can't play, or vice versa. Absolutely matters. Great point by you. By the way, member of the crew, DG, he'll be on site. No word yet, though, Steve. He's going to find Robert Damron to take a picture. We'll see. But he says 2 p.m. each day going to be like you're in a frying pan. Wow, that's not a fun when you're trying to get that breath and it's so hot. Yeah. It can be difficult sometimes. It can really be difficult.
All right, I didn't jump on my top 10s though. I didn't. I kind of cut myself off there. Can I? Shall I finish? Shall I finish?
My bad. Please continue. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's go to my top 10s and notice in the graphics here, including ties. I noted this last week. I think this is a very important thing to note. The fact that the including ties, we hate the dead heat reductions. We hate those. Those are just they're awful, because you think you've got something, and then you look there and you're like, oh, I thought I won more than that, and I didn't. The including ties is a big thing. Tony Finau plus 275 for a top 10. Such a steady performer, and like I mentioned, the putting is on point right now. Aaron Rai, I feel like he's going to carry this thing over and play really well. Another plus 275 there. Russell Henley, talk about a Bermuda green specialist. This guy, he lives in Columbus, Georgia. That's kind of where they grow Bermuda grass in Georgia. So like he's so comfortable. Like this is come out of the womb, like knowing Bermuda grass. Russell Henley loves this surface. So I think he's going to be a really good pick. Plus he hits it in play off the tee, which is going to be super important this week. This golf course has a lot of dog leg holes. So the players can't always negotiate the drivers into certain positions the way the fairways angle. And there are a lot of penalty areas on this golf course as well. A lot of water right off the sides of fairways, right next to greens. You got to get a guy who puts the ball in play off the tee, or else you're going to have no chance to do anything this week. Russell Henley does that.
Also a tie for 6th a year ago at this golf course as well. So he loves coming back here. Quickly mine, Max Gresserman. I just like him. He's just trending in the right direction. The finish last week does nothing to my mindset for him. Tommy Fleetwood, great finish here a year ago. Played well at the Olympics. I'm never going to pick him to win until he wins, and he's never won on the PGA Tour. Yep. So I'm going to go top 10. And then Tom Kim, I just think he's trending. And Steve and I may disagree a little bit, but the way he's playing, I just feel like at plus 275, I like the number. Steve, there were actually 3 golfers, 3. I can't remember seeing this before, that were minus money or minus odds for a top 10 play.
Yeah, I mean, there's a big separation right now. I mean,
Rory.
Yeah, I mean they're kind of so far above these other guys. If they play their game, I mean they're going to be the top 10. I mean it's simple as that.
It really is. Remember when you're making your plays, there's only 70, so you'll see some numbers that you'll go, what? I get half the field. Usually it's 144, 156. This is only 70. Remember that. And also DraftKings and several others, as Steve already mentioned, they have the including ties. Make sure you look at the number. It says including ties right there at the different books as they try to be more player friendly, as we like to call it. All right, we still have 2 more categories to go, but we are very, very pleased as one of our partnerships that DTL Golf was brought to you today by Reagan, the movie.
Welcome to your life.
You can run from a bully for so long,
There's no
but after a while, you're going to have to stand up to him.
What did the president know, and when did he know it?
I am about to start the biggest war of this century.
You told me you wanted to make a difference in this world.
What would you have me do?
I want you to fight!
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Wants to rule the world.
We want all of our picks to fight this week. Fight for a top 10. Fight for a top 20. But damn it, Steve Scott, We want them to fight for a W.
You know,
Can DTL pick a winner 2 weeks in a row? I believe that we can. Where are you headed this week, sir?
I hope so. I was just going to say, though, I would still love to see a Donald Trump, Joe Biden golf match there, kind of final, coming off of that thing. But, sorry, Joe's out of the race. But anyway, so our winners, thinking about winners, Ludwig Oberg plus 2,000 this week, another top 10, top 6 par 4 scoring expert. He just hits the ball straighter than you can point. And these are Zoysia fairways this week. These guys, they can hit it even higher off of these fairways. The ball sits up so nice, almost right on a tee. He puts the ball in play a lot. If he can roll some putts in, Ludwig is, he's right up there. And Patrick Cantlay, here's a guy who's been playing kind of, we've been seeing him on leaderboards at plus 2,200 this week. I feel like Patrick Cantlay's a guy, he kind of goes on like a pitch count or a tournament count throughout the year, but he's a guy, when the playoffs come around, he shows up. Patrick Cantlay is he's ready to go when the playoffs come. And he doesn't play a ton of golf relative to a lot of his peers on the PGA Tour, but he gets his game ready for moments like this. And I think Patrick Cantlay, he fits this golf course. He's kind of the ultimate tactician. Point A to point B, really, really sharp, such a grinder. I mean, he's won so many events in his life, but he rises his game for the playoffs. I like both these guys here this week to get it done.
He also had a high, I believe, top 3 finish a year ago at this tournament, if my memory serves me correct, or my research serves me correct.
I think you're right.
You also, they said, Cam Young going to break another driver this week. Maybe he'll break it on Friday and have a good weekend for you, perhaps?
Yeah, I don't know. He's hitting it pretty good. Cam Young's hitting it.
Played well last week.
He's just, I followed him too last week, and he's hitting it so darn good. And he makes a stupid 3-putt from 15 feet or 20 feet and just kills momentum every time he plays. And like, he just can't get past his bad putting.
Well, hopefully this will be his week, because he's one of those guys like a Tommy Fleetwood, for whatever reason, top 2s all day, has never raised a trophy so far in the first 3 or 4 years that he's been on tour. Goats thinks Morikawa will bring it round 1. He likes our picks. Has Scheffler over Cantlay and Morikawa over McIlroy in a parlay plus 221. You can do those for head-to-heads as well. So, Steve, I want your reactions to mine. I kind of gave people 3 different price points, because in the playoffs, you get names that have numbers next to them that maybe you wouldn't normally get, because the books want you to spread out your plays, especially in this category. So Justin Thomas at plus 3,500, I consider that the sweet spot. Here's a guy that if he gets on fire, he absolutely can win this golf tournament, and he's also from this kind of part of the world in Kentucky. Tom Kim, talked about him. Davis Thompson, he recently won, and every single week, Steve, this dude right here shows up, including last week at plus 6,000. To me, if you match the number with the player, I think he's got to be my absolute favorite this week. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, Davis Thompson's hard to disagree with you there. I really think he is on point right now. I mean, his golf swing, his statistical categories are right up there with some of the best. So I think with the confidence of his victory at the John Deere, I think that he's got a lot of great things going for him. I wouldn't bet against him this week. Let's put it that way. But plus 6,000, I think you gotta do a little something for him.
Yeah, I think with some of these numbers, you can sprinkle on a few guys, because normally he would be a plus 2,500, a plus 2,800. But now with all the elite players, a guy like Davis Thompson, you get a really good number. All right, category number 5. And this is where you might be surprised at some of the numbers that Steve and I were able to find. This is a long shot category. This is where we put anything that doesn't fit into the other categories. So for the long shots this week, I think all of yours are to win, Steve. Yep. Who do you like there?
Well, I do have some major long shots this week. I mean, starting with Justin Rose at plus 15,000. He's 55th in FedEx Cup points. Again, top 50, get to the BMW, top 50, get into those signature events next week or next year. he's got a lot of motivation right now. He's in that point. There's a lot of motivation to play well this week. Tied for second in the Open Championship a couple tournaments ago. He's not playing poorly. I mean, he's playing among the best golf of anyone out there in the world. So I think that, he can get it done on this golf course. And I mean, plus 15,000, that's for a guy who almost won the Open. I mean, come on, right? Will Zalatoris, plus 10,000. Here's a guy who won here a couple of years ago in 2022, tied for 8th the year before that in his only 2 starts at TPC Southwind. He is 49th in FedEx Cup points. And I know you say, Will Zalatoris, where has he been? He's not playing good golf. But when you come back to a venue that you like, that fits your game, this golf course, I mean, we know Will Zalatoris is a wonderful ball striker. And he's just, everything's been a little off. But when you come back to a venue that you have won on, that just spurs on really good thoughts and memories in your mind. I think he's going to do pretty well here this week. Plus 10,000. I mean, you got to throw something on that because he knows this place and he can win here, and he has. Nick Dunlap, I think this is overly rude. Plus 20,000. I mean, he's about the last guy in the mix this week. He's 68th in FedEx Cup points. So he's going to have that aggressive mindset. I think he's either going to play great this week or finish way down the path. I don't think there's going to be a ton of in between for Nick Dunlap this week. But I mean, plus 20,000. I mean, it's just a little rude there. I think he's got a lot more game than that. And I think these conditions are going to suit him pretty well.
I think it's also really important to tell the people at home watching right now that in a normal world, a normal regular season, Nick Dunlap would probably be in the top 40. He would have 500 more points than he does. He got no credit for the win he had at the American Express. So I think the books have forgotten about that, to be honest. They're looking at where these guys are in the FedEx Cup standings instead of what their year looked like. And this may be whether it's the long shot at 20,000, but as I've done with Taylor Moore, maybe you look at Nick Dunlap in that top 5 or that top 10 market, because that number's got to be pretty good too, Steve.
Yeah, it does. I have to look, but it has to be great.
Yeah. So Taylor Moore was a top 5 last year. And if you guys don't like betting winners, this is kind of what you can do, whether it's with Steve's or with mine. Taylor Moore to win is plus 17,000. This is a PGA Tour winner also, just like Nick Dunlap. And top 5 plus 2,200. To put some perspective on it, Scotty Scheffler is plus 330 to win this week. So you can go top 5 with Taylor Moore and get 6 times the number, 7 times the number that you would get for Scheffler to win it outright. It's crazy. And then Gresserman to win is plus 8,000. You talk about Nick Dunlap being rude. To me, a guy with 2 straight top 2s should have won a 4-shot lead with 7 to play, and he's plus 8,000, Steve?
Yeah, no doubt.
I couldn't believe that number. To me, it's worth a little bit of this, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
Wow. This is Big Cheesy. Shows up at the end of the show because he loves Steve Scott. And he says, Coach on the call, I'm fading the group he is calling. Well, see, even he, and here's where sometimes I just like talking trash, Steve, because even Big Cheesy can't talk trash correctly. Because guess what stream I'm on this week, Steve?
I don't know. Let's see. What stream are you on?
Featured holes, which means I'm not even calling a group. I'm calling 4 different holes instead of staying with a group. So that wouldn't even work. You couldn't even fade me this week. That's next level trash talk right there, Steve. It's next level's trash talk. Big Cheesy always stepping in it. Always stepping in it. So we've gone through all 5 categories, and we have reached the playoffs. So, Steve, I want your final take. A lot of people have come in the last 30 minutes or so. Kind of your overall take as you enter the first playoffs based off what we've seen in the past and the players that are hot right now as we head in to a red-hot Memphis, Tennessee.
Yeah, I really feel like this is going to be, I mean, the favorites are going to be right up there. I think the long shots, it's going to be really challenging for, the Scotty Schefflers of the world to get beat. I mean, Scotty, Xander, or Rory, you got to think that basically they're going to, one of those 3 are going to win the FedEx Cup at the end at East Lake. I mean, it just feels destined that's what's going to happen. But, Yeah, it's always very exciting. There's always somebody who gets on a run. I mean, we saw it a couple of years ago. More than a couple of years ago now. My fellow Gator Billy Horschel won the first couple playoff events. He got right in there and won the FedEx Cup himself under different format, mind you. But there's so much that can happen. I mean, it's the points are totally multiplied this week, and it's not your ordinary 500 for a win. What is it, quadrupled this week, isn't it? So 2,000 for a win. Yeah. And I mean, that's a big difference. So somebody can change their year with a win this week. Could be the guy, and could be a Nick Dunlap this week. Could just totally change the whole paint job on the PGA Tour this year.
I think also, and I think it's appropriate to end the show mentioning Scottie Scheffler, because he really moved a lot of people with the year that he's had, all the big tournaments that he's won, everything he's done, a dominant number one in the world, to go and shoot a 62 in the final round of the Olympics, and to have a guy like that, when the players, all they do is get criticized about, they don't do anything unless it's for a big paycheck. And to watch him, Steve, standing there getting his gold medal and crying when they played the national anthem, to me was everything I needed to know about what's inside of Scottie Scheffler. And not just because of that, but just the way that he goes about his business. I would be shocked if he doesn't win yet another FedEx Cup. You?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he said he's not defined by his victories and whatnot, but and that puts his whole game in perspective, allows him to go and shoot 62 when everything is on the line, when the gold medal is on the line. And he's a really special player. And the numbers that the books are putting out there, I mean, these are, right, like you said before, Tiger Woods type numbers right here. I mean, he's doing stuff that hasn't been done in, basically a generation.
Plus 330. I mean, that's just ridiculous. You cannot bet on him. And if you thought that being a dad and staying up all night was going to slow him down, he's only gotten better. He's only gotten better. Nothing affects this guy. Steve Scott, as always, you the man. I'll see you next week for the top 50 as we move on to the segment. Steve Scott, always the greatest. Producer man, you know what time it is. I need that one shot, if you don't mind. We are now heading into PGA Tour Live world. I will be on featured holes all week long. Also, the Bryan brothers, they're going to overtake our stream. If you like the Bryan brothers, noon to 2 Eastern on Thursday, they'll be there all the time and give me a nice little break as I get ready for the PFL playoffs on Friday night. So the DTL universe, we are everywhere. So with all that being said, you've got your marching order for Steve Scott. I am the coach, producer man. This has been DTL Golf. We're back to our normal time, normal day next week, Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. Until then, we'll see you Thursday in Memphis.